The late afternoon sun cast golden shadows across the glass towers of downtown Chicago, painting the skyline in shades of amber and rose. Inside the top-floor corner office of Quantum Dynamics, Min-Jun Kong stood with his hands clasped behind his back, surveying the city that had become his kingdom over the past decade. At 36, he had transformed a modest tech startup into a multinational powerhouse worth over $8 billion. The journey had been relentless, consuming, and ultimately isolating in ways he was only beginning to understand. Behind him, the sound of measured footsteps announced the arrival of his executive assistant. Naledi Morrison entered with her characteristic poise, a leather-bound folder tucked under one arm. Her dark skin seemed to glow in the afternoon light streaming through the windows, and her navy blue dress spoke of quiet professionalism rather than trendy excess. In the 3 years since she'd joined his team, she had become the invisible force that kept his chaotic world running smoothly. "The Anderson Medical Center benefit reports are compiled and ready," she said, her voice carrying the warm timbre that always seemed to ground him during stressful moments. "Your presentation to the executive board is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9, and I've confirmed your dinner meeting with the venture partners for Friday evening." Min-Jun turned from the window, his dark eyes meeting hers with an intensity that had intimidated countless business rivals. "Naledi, I need to ask you something that falls outside your usual responsibilities." She raised an eyebrow, the only crack in her otherwise serene expression. "I'm listening." "The Anderson Center Gala is happening next Saturday." He paused, running his hand through his perfectly styled black hair, a rare gesture of uncertainty. "I'm looking for someone to attend with me, and I was hoping you might be willing." Naledi's composure wavered for just a moment. "Mr. Kong, I'm not sure that crosses appropriate professional lines. Wouldn't you prefer to invite someone from your personal life?" Min-Jun walked to his desk and sat down, suddenly looking more human than the untouchable titan she typically observed. "That's precisely the issue. Everyone in my personal sphere has an agenda. They're calculating business angles or social advantages before the appetizers are even served. I need someone who genuinely cares about the medical center's mission and can discuss our technology partnerships authentically, without turning the evening into a corporate chess match." The conversation that followed was careful and measured, with both of them dancing around the implications of what he was suggesting. But ultimately, Naledi found herself agreeing to consider it, promising to give him an answer by the following morning. That evening, Min-Jun met his longtime friends Garrett Russo and Xavier Holbrook at their exclusive athletic club for their weekly racquetball game. Both men had inherited substantial wealth and spent their days managing investment portfolios while attending an endless circuit of social gatherings. "So who's the fortunate woman for next weekend's gala?" Xavier asked as they cooled down after their match, his tone carrying the casual superiority of someone who had never struggled for anything. "Every influential person in the Midwest will be there. I'm planning to take Naledi," Min-Jun replied simply, bracing himself for the reaction he knew was coming. Garrett nearly dropped his sports drink. "Your assistant?" "Min-Jun, this is the premier social event of the season." "You're joking." Xavier shook his head with an incredulous laugh. "Tell me you're not serious. Naledi seems pleasant enough, but she's completely unprepared for something of this magnitude. She probably buys her clothes off the rack and has never attended a formal dinner with 7 courses. She's brilliant, articulate, and understands our business operations better than half our board of directors," Min-Jun said, feeling tension build in his jaw with each dismissive word. "Intelligence doesn't teach you which utensil to use or how to navigate conversations with senators and industry leaders," Garrett added. "You'll spend the whole evening coaching her through basic social etiquette instead of making valuable connections." Xavier leaned forward with a conspiratorial expression. "Simone Devereaux has been waiting for you to extend an invitation. Her family controls the largest investment firm in 3 states, and she actually knows how to conduct herself at these functions." "Simone represents everything problematic about my social circle," Min-Jun said firmly. "She evaluates people like assets and treats conversations like transactions. And your assistant sees you as the person who controls her livelihood and career advancement," Garrett countered. Simone operates in your world. Nality doesn't. Minjun didn't respond, but the conversation left him questioning whether he was being fair to Nality by inviting her into a situation where she might face judgment and condescension from people who had never worked for anything in their privileged lives. Meanwhile, Nality sat at her desk long after most employees had departed for the day, Minjun's invitation replaying in her mind as she organized files and updated schedules. She had attended corporate functions before, but always in a support capacity, managing logistics and taking notes from the periphery. The company's annual report lay open on her desk, featuring photographs from the previous year's medical center gala. She studied the images of elegant women in designer gowns, their jewelry probably worth more than she earned in a year. These weren't just wealthy socialites. They were power players and decision-makers who navigated circles she had only observed from a professional distance. Her phone vibrated with a text from her younger sister. Imani was completing her final year at Northwestern University and always seemed to have perfect timing with her messages. "How was your day? Any dramatic billionaire developments?" Nality smiled despite her concerns. Imani had an uncanny ability to lighten her mood with perfectly timed humor. She typed quickly. "He invited me to attend a charity gala with him. Not certain it's wise." Her phone rang immediately. "Nality Morrison, please tell me you didn't decline a date with your gorgeous billionaire boss." Imani's voice bubbled with excitement. "It's not a date," Nality protested. "It's a professional arrangement. He needs someone who understands the company's philanthropic work." "Right, because there's absolutely nobody else in your massive corporation who could discuss charity work," Imani said sarcastically. "Nality, when was the last time you did something thrilling for yourself?" Nality considered the question seriously. Her life had evolved into a careful pattern of work, helping her mother with household expenses and ensuring Imani could focus on her studies without financial stress. Excitement felt like an indulgence she couldn't justify. "This isn't about thrill-seeking," she said finally. "This is about maintaining professional boundaries and not embarrassing myself or the company. Or it's about taking a chance on something that might be wonderful," Imani countered. "You've been his assistant for 3 years, and he's never invited anyone from the office to these events. That has to signify something." The following morning, Nality arrived at the office 40 minutes early, as was her custom. She used the quiet time to review Minjun's schedule and prepare for the day's meetings. When he emerged from the elevator precisely at 8 o'clock, she was ready with his coffee and the morning briefing. "Good morning, Mr. Kong," she said, matching his pace as they walked toward his office. "Your 9 o'clock with the software development team is confirmed, and the contracts from the Singapore office arrived overnight for your review." "Thank you," he replied, then stopped walking and turned to face her directly. "Nality, regarding Saturday evening, if you're uncomfortable with the arrangement, I completely understand. I don't want you to feel pressured because of our working relationship." She looked into his eyes, seeing genuine concern rather than the expectations she had feared. In that moment, she realized that Minjun Kong, despite his wealth and influence, was asking rather than commanding. It was a distinction that spoke to the character she had observed over 3 years of working closely with him. "I'd like to accept your invitation," she said quietly, "but I want to establish clear expectations. I'm attending as your colleague, not as decoration or a social accessory." A smile transformed his usually serious expression. "I wouldn't want it any other way. This foundation matters deeply to me, and I need someone there who shares that perspective." "Then yes, I'll accompany you to the gala," she confirmed. They continued toward his office, and Nality felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety settling in her chest. She had committed to entering a world she had only observed from the margins, accompanying a man whose presence commanded attention wherever he went. The rest of the week passed in a whirlwind of preparation and second-guessing. Nality researched the foundation's history, memorized the names and backgrounds of major donors, and studied the guest list like she was preparing for a comprehensive examination. During lunch breaks, she discreetly visited boutiques, searching for something appropriate to wear. The price tags on suitable gowns made her stomach turn, representing several months of careful savings. She was about to abandon the search when she remembered her mother's collection stored in the basement of their family home on the south side. Friday afternoon, Naledi left work early to drive to her childhood home. Her mother, Cassandra Morrison, had worked as a fashion consultant in her younger years before dedicating herself to raising Naledi and Imani after their father's unexpected death. "Let me see what we have," Cassandra said, descending the basement stairs with the enthusiasm of someone embarking on a treasure hunt. Among carefully preserved boxes and cherished memories, they discovered a deep burgundy gown that Cassandra had worn to charity functions in the late 90s. The classic silhouette and timeless elegance would be perfect with minor alterations. "Your father always said this dress made me look like a queen," Cassandra said softly, holding the gown up to catch the light from the basement window. Naledi felt tears threaten as she imagined wearing something that carried her family's love and history. "Are you certain you want me to borrow it?" "Sweetheart, this dress was meant to make its wearer feel confident and beautiful. I can't imagine a better occasion for it to serve that purpose again." As Naledi drove back to her apartment that evening, the carefully wrapped gown resting in her passenger seat, she felt a shift in her perspective. This wasn't about trying to fit into Minjun's world or impressing his wealthy friends. This was about representing herself, her values, and her family's dignity with grace and authenticity. Saturday morning arrived with Chicago's typical brisk wind off the lake. Naledi woke with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Her modest apartment in Hyde Park buzzed with activity as Imani arrived early with reinforcements in the form of their mother and a makeup artist friend from her university theater program. "Today we transform my responsible older sister into a goddess," Imani announced dramatically, setting down bags filled with beauty supplies and accessories. Naledi laughed nervously as she sipped her coffee. "I just need to look presentable, not like I'm auditioning for a film role." "Darling," Cassandra said, examining the vintage gown they had altered the previous night, "when you're walking into a room full of Chicago's elite on the arm of one of the city's most eligible bachelors, presentable isn't sufficient. You need to look like you belong there." The transformation began with a long, luxurious bath infused with jasmine oils that Imani had splurged on for the occasion. As Naledi soaked, she tried to calm the butterflies that had taken residence in her stomach. Tonight would either be a beautiful evening supporting a worthy cause or a complete disaster that would make Monday morning unbearably awkward. Devin Fletcher, Imani's friend from the theater program, arrived with a professional makeup kit that looked like it belonged on a film set. His artistic eye immediately began assessing Naledi's features with the intensity of a sculptor studying clay. "Bone structure like this is a blessing," he murmured, tilting her face toward the light. "We're going to enhance your natural beauty, not create a disguise. The objective is elegance, not theatricality." For the next 2 hours, Naledi submitted to Devin's expertise while Imani and Cassandra fussed over jewelry, shoes, and final alterations to the gown. The process felt surreal, like watching someone else's life unfold in her bathroom mirror. When Devin finally stepped back with a satisfied smile, Naledi barely recognized herself. Her brown eyes seemed larger and more luminous, framed by subtly dramatic makeup that emphasized their natural warmth. Her usually practical hairstyle had been transformed into an elegant updo with soft curls framing her face. "Now for the grand finale," Cassandra said, carefully lifting the deep burgundy gown from its protective covering. The vintage dress fit like it had been designed specifically for Naledi's figure. The rich burgundy fabric caught the light with every movement, and the classic cut emphasized her natural grace without being ostentatious. Cassandra's gold necklace, a family heirloom, added the perfect finishing touch. Imani gasped when Naledi emerged from her bedroom fully dressed. "You look like you stepped out of a classic film. Minjun Kong is going to forget how to form sentences." Naledi studied herself in the full-length mirror, hardly believing the elegant woman looking back at her was the same person who spent her days organizing schedules and managing correspondence. The transformation was more than cosmetic. She felt different, more confident, like she was ready to face whatever the evening might bring. "Remember," Cassandra said, adjusting the necklace slightly. Confidence comes from within. You're not pretending to be someone else tonight. You're simply allowing the world to see the remarkable woman you've always been. A knock at the door interrupted their preparations. Naladi's heart skipped as she realized Minjun had arrived precisely on time, exactly as she would have expected from someone whose life ran with meticulous precision. Imani peeked through the window blinds and whistled softly. There's a black limousine outside with a uniformed driver. Your boss doesn't do anything halfway, does he? Naladi took a deep breath, gathered her small evening clutch, and walked to the door. When she opened it, Minjun stood in the hallway wearing an impeccably tailored black tuxedo that made him look like he had stepped off the cover of a luxury magazine. But it was his expression that took her breath away. For a moment, his usual composed demeanor cracked, revealing something raw and genuine in his eyes as he took in her appearance. "Naladi," he said softly, his voice carrying a note of wonder she had never heard before. "You look absolutely stunning." "Thank you," she replied, feeling warmth rise in her cheeks. "You clean up rather well yourself, Mr. Kong." The limousine's interior was exactly what Naladi had expected: leather seats, ambient lighting, and a partition that gave them privacy from the driver. As they pulled away from her modest neighborhood toward the downtown hotel hosting the gala, Minjun seemed unusually nervous. "I should probably warn you about what we're walking into," he said, adjusting his cufflinks in a gesture Naladi recognized as his tell when he was anxious. "The guest list includes several people who will be curious about our arrangement tonight." "Curious in what way?" Naladi asked, smoothing her gown across her lap. "Garrett and Xavier will probably make condescending comments. They're convinced you'll be overwhelmed." He turned to look at her directly. "There will also be business associates who might interpret your presence as significant beyond tonight's event." Naladi considered this information carefully. "Are you concerned about how this might affect our working relationship?" "I'm more concerned about how my social circle might treat you," Minjun admitted. "Some of these people can be incredibly shallow and judgmental. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable because of their narrow-mindedness." The vulnerability in his voice surprised her. For 3 years, she had seen Minjun Kong as an impenetrable force of nature, someone who commanded respect through sheer presence and intelligence. Tonight she was glimpsing the man beneath the corporate armor, someone who cared about her feelings and worried about her comfort. "I appreciate your concern," she said gently, "but I didn't accept your invitation to hide in a corner. I'm here to support the foundation and to represent quantum dynamics with dignity. If some people can't see past their own prejudices, that says more about them than it does about me." Minjun's smile was genuine and warm. "That's exactly the attitude that makes you perfect for tonight." As the limousine approached the Drake Hotel, Naladi could see other elegant vehicles dropping off passengers dressed in designer gowns and expensive tuxedos. The red carpet entrance was illuminated by photographers capturing arrivals for the society pages. "Ready?" Minjun asked as their car pulled up to the entrance. "Ready," Naladi confirmed, though her heart was beating so fast she was sure he could hear it. The moment Naladi stepped out of the limousine, camera flashes began popping like small fireworks. She had expected some media presence, but the attention was more intense than she had anticipated. Minjun appeared beside her immediately, offering his arm with the natural grace of someone accustomed to public scrutiny. "Just smile and walk naturally," he murmured as they approached the entrance. "The photographers are here for the event, not specifically for us." But Naladi could hear the whispered speculation from other guests as they passed. "Who is she? I don't recognize her. She's certainly not his usual type." Inside the hotel's grand ballroom, the Anderson Medical Center Foundation had created a magical atmosphere. Soft lighting reflected off crystal chandeliers, and elegant floral arrangements filled the space with the scent of roses and peonies. Round tables covered in crisp white linens surrounded a dance floor, while a live orchestra provided sophisticated background music. Garrett Rousseau appeared within minutes of their arrival, his expression barely concealing his skepticism as he assessed Naladi from head to toe. "Minjun, good to see you. And this must be the famous Naladi we've heard so much about." "Naladi Morrison," she replied, extending her hand with confident grace. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Rousseau. Minjun speaks of you often." "I'm sure he does," Garrett replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Tell me, Naledi, what brings you to our little charity gathering? Are you particularly passionate about medical research?" The question was clearly designed to expose her as an outsider, but Naledi had prepared for exactly this type of interrogation. "Actually, yes. My sister Imani volunteers at the pediatric clinic during her breaks from university. The work the foundation does to provide medical equipment and family support services is incredibly important. I've seen firsthand how their programs impact families who are facing unimaginable challenges." Garrett's eyebrows rose slightly, clearly not expecting such a knowledgeable response. "Well handled," Minjun said quietly as they walked away. "Garrett was trying to rattle you." "I noticed," Naledi replied with a small smile. "But I didn't spend 3 years managing your calendar without learning how to handle difficult personalities." Their table included several of Chicago's most influential figures: Senator Patricia Brennan and her husband, tech entrepreneur Marcus Zhou, philanthropist Dr. Helena Vasquez, who directed the foundation, and commercial developer Raymond Castellano with his wife. As they took their seats, Naledi realized that Minjun had specifically requested a table with people who would appreciate substantive conversation rather than gossip and social posturing. Senator Brennan immediately engaged her in discussion about technology's role in improving healthcare accessibility. "Miss Morrison," Dr. Vasquez said during the appetizer course, "Minjun tells me you've been instrumental in organizing quantum dynamics charitable initiatives. Your approach to corporate social responsibility has been quite innovative." Naledi felt a flush of pride that Minjun had given her credit for work she had poured her heart into. "Thank you, Dr. Vasquez. I believe companies have an obligation to give back to their communities, especially in areas where they have expertise to offer." "I couldn't agree more," Senator Brennan added. "The partnership between Quantum Dynamics and Anderson Medical Center has been a model for other corporations. The diagnostic systems you've provided to underserved clinics have literally saved lives." As the evening progressed, Naledi found herself genuinely enjoying the conversations. These weren't the shallow social climbers Minjun's friends had led her to expect, but passionate individuals working to make meaningful differences in their community. During the foundation's presentation, Naledi watched Minjun's face as they showed a video featuring patients benefiting from the diagnostic technology his company had donated. His expression revealed the deep satisfaction he derived from using his success to help others, and she felt a surge of admiration for the man she thought she already knew so well. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Vasquez announced from the podium, "I'd like to recognize some of our most generous supporters this year. Quantum Dynamics, under the guidance of Minjun Kong and his remarkable team, has contributed not just financial resources, but innovative solutions that have transformed how we serve our patients." The applause was genuine and sustained, and Naledi felt proud to be associated with work that was making such a tangible difference. This was why she had been drawn to working for Quantum Dynamics in the first place, the opportunity to be part of something meaningful. After dinner, as the orchestra began playing songs for dancing, Minjun stood and offered Naledi his hand. "Would you honor me with a dance?" The gesture felt both natural and momentous as they moved onto the dance floor. Other couples swayed around them, but Naledi felt like they were alone in their own bubble of soft music and possibility. "You've exceeded every expectation tonight," Minjun said as they moved together with surprising grace. "Watching you handle every conversation with intelligence and wit has been remarkable." "Thank you for including me," Naledi replied, acutely aware of his hand on her waist and the warmth of his touch. "This evening has shown me a side of your work that I only understood intellectually before. Seeing the actual impact on those patients' lives makes everything feel more meaningful." "That's exactly how I hoped you'd feel," Minjun said, his voice soft and sincere. "You bring that perspective to everything you do, Naledi. It's one of the things I value most about working with you." As the song continued, Naledi became aware that they had garnered attention from other guests. Some watched with curious approval, while others, particularly Garrett Rousseau and his circle, observed with obvious disapproval. "We're being watched," she murmured. "Let them watch," Minjun replied, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm exactly where I want to be, with exactly the person I want to be here with." The intensity in his voice made Nality's heart skip, and she realized that something fundamental had shifted between them during the course of the evening. This was no longer just a professional arrangement or a charitable obligation. Something real and profound was developing, whether they were ready for it or not. Sunday morning brought Chicago's typical lake effect clouds, but Nality woke in her small apartment feeling like everything had changed. The deep burgundy gown hung carefully in her closet, and her mother's gold necklace rested in its velvet box. But the memories of the previous evening felt almost too vivid to be real. Her phone buzzed with a text from Amani. "Tell me everything. Don't leave out a single detail." Before Nality could respond, another message appeared, this one from an unknown number. "This is Dr. Helena Vasquez from Anderson Medical Center Foundation. Would you be available for lunch this week? I have a proposition that might interest you." Nality stared at the message, wondering what the foundation director could possibly want to discuss with her. Before she could analyze it further, her doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw a delivery person holding an enormous bouquet of white orchids. The card, written in Minjun's precise handwriting, simply said, "Thank you for a perfect evening. MK." Monday morning at Quantum Dynamics felt surreal. Nality arrived at her usual time, prepared for potential awkwardness or change dynamics. But Minjun greeted her with his normal professional demeanor. If anything, there seemed to be a new warmth in his eyes and a subtle softness in his voice when he spoke to her. "Good morning, Nality. Could you please confirm my appointments for this week? And we'll need to schedule a follow-up meeting with the Foundation Board about expanding our diagnostic technology program." "Of course, Mr. Kong. I'll have the confirmed schedule on your desk within the hour." But by mid-morning, it became clear that news of their appearance together had spread through Chicago's interconnected social and business networks faster than either had anticipated. Xavier Holbrook called Minjun's direct line before 10 o'clock. "Interesting choice for Saturday night," he said without preamble. "The photos from the society page are quite striking. Your assistant cleans up better than I expected." "Nality is an exceptional woman," Minjun replied coolly. "I'm not sure why that surprises you." "It doesn't surprise me," Xavier continued. "What surprises me is that you're willing to complicate your professional life for a romantic entanglement. Mixing business with pleasure rarely ends well, especially when there's such a significant power imbalance involved." After ending the call, Minjun found himself staring out his office window, considering Xavier's words. The last thing he wanted was to put Nality in an uncomfortable position or jeopardize her career because of his personal feelings. Tuesday afternoon, Nality met Dr. Helena Vasquez at a quiet restaurant overlooking the Chicago River. The foundation director was elegant and direct, qualities Nality had admired during their brief interaction at the gala. "I'll get straight to the point," Helena said after they ordered. "Your insights about corporate social responsibility impressed me Saturday night. But what really caught my attention was your obvious passion for the work itself. I've been searching for someone to lead our new corporate partnerships division, and I think you might be perfect for the role." Nality nearly choked on her water. "I'm flattered, Dr. Vasquez, but I'm very happy in my current position. I understand your loyalty to quantum dynamics," Helena continued. "But this role would allow you to expand the kind of work you're already passionate about across multiple organizations. You'd be developing partnerships with corporations throughout the Midwest, helping them create meaningful community impact programs." The offer was tempting in ways Nality hadn't expected. The salary was substantially higher than her current position, and the work aligned perfectly with her values and interests. But accepting would mean leaving Minjun, and she wasn't sure she was ready for that conversation. "May I think about it?" Nality asked. "Of course, but I should mention that the position would need to be filled within the next month. Take the time you need, but don't wait too long." That evening, Minjun found himself pacing his penthouse apartment, nursing a glass of wine and trying to sort through emotions he hadn't felt since his divorce 5 years earlier. His marriage had ended when his ex-wife accused him of being more committed to his company than to their relationship, and he had sworn never to let personal feelings complicate his professional judgment again. But Naledi was different. Over 3 years, he had watched her handle every challenge with grace and intelligence. She improved everything she touched, from simple scheduling conflicts to complex corporate initiatives. More importantly, she made him want to be better, both professionally and personally. His phone rang, interrupting his brooding. The caller ID showed his mother's name, and he answered with resignation. Min-jun, dear, Sun Hee Kang's cultured voice filled the room. I've been hearing fascinating things about Saturday night's gala. Apparently, you created quite a stir with your choice of companion. Hello, Mother. I assume the Chicago social network has been buzzing with speculation. Indeed. Simone Devereaux called me this morning quite upset about being passed over for your assistant. She seemed to think you had some sort of understanding. Min-jun rubbed his forehead, feeling the beginning of a tension headache. Simone assumed something that was never discussed or agreed upon. I took Naledi because she was the best possible companion for the evening. Your choice, dear, Sun Hee continued. From what I hear, she handled herself beautifully and made an excellent impression on some very important people. I'm simply curious about your intentions. My intentions? Min-jun, you're 36 years old and one of the most eligible bachelors in the city. Every move you make is scrutinized and analyzed. If you're developing feelings for your assistant, you need to consider the implications for both of your careers. After ending the call with his mother, Min-jun realized he could no longer avoid the conversation he needed to have with Naledi. Whatever was developing between them deserved honesty and clarity, even if it complicated everything else. Wednesday afternoon, Min-jun asked Naledi to stay after regular office hours. As the building emptied and Chicago's skyline began to twinkle with evening lights, they found themselves alone in his office, surrounded by the familiar trappings of their professional relationship. Naledi, we need to talk about Saturday night, he began, then stopped, realizing he had no idea how to continue. She saved him from further awkwardness by speaking first. I've been offered another job. Dr. Vasquez wants me to lead the Foundation's new corporate partnerships division. Min-jun felt like he had been punched in the chest. That's a wonderful opportunity. The Foundation would be lucky to have you. I haven't accepted yet, Naledi said carefully. But it would be a significant career advancement and a chance to focus on work I'm passionate about. And it would solve the problem of our changing relationship, Min-jun said quietly. Naledi looked up sharply. Is that what this is? A problem? No, he said firmly, moving closer to where she sat. What's developing between us feels like the most natural thing in the world. But I don't want you to feel pressured or compromised because I'm your boss. Naledi stood up, closing the distance between them until they were only inches apart. Min-jun, I've worked for you for 3 years. In all that time, have you ever known me to do anything I didn't want to do simply because you suggested it? He smiled despite the gravity of their conversation. You've disagreed with me more than most of my board members. Exactly. Trust me to know my own mind about this. She reached up and touched his face gently. Saturday night wasn't just professional for me either. But I need to know what you want before I make any decisions about my career. I want to see where this leads, regardless of where we work. But I also want you to make the choice that's best for your future, even if that means leaving quantum dynamics. What if I stayed, and we agreed to keep our personal relationships separate from work until we figure out what this is? That would be complicated, Min-jun said, though his thumb was tracing circles on her palm, belying his words. I've never been afraid of complicated, Naledi replied. Have you? Instead of answering with words, Min-jun leaned down and kissed her softly, settling the question that had been building between them for days. When they broke apart, both were breathing slightly faster. I'm not taking the Foundation job, Naledi said decisively. Not yet, anyway. What we have here is worth exploring, and I'm not running away because it's complicated. 6 months later, Quantum Dynamics' annual shareholders meeting had concluded successfully, with record profits and expanding community partnerships earning praise from investors and board members alike. Naledi, now holding the title of Director of Corporate Social Responsibility, presented the quarterly report on their charitable initiatives to enthusiastic applause. "Excellent presentation," Min-jun said as they walked back to his office together. "The board was particularly impressed with the expansion of our diagnostic technology program. Their enthusiasm makes all the long hours worthwhile," Naledi replied, carrying herself with the confidence that had flourished over the past 6 months. Their relationship had evolved gradually and carefully. They maintained strict professional boundaries during business hours, but their evenings and weekends had become filled with long dinners, cultural events, and quiet conversations that revealed new depths to both of their personalities. "Naledi," Min-jun said as they reached his office door, "would you join me for dinner tonight? There's something I'd like to discuss with you." She smiled, recognizing the formal tone he used when he was nervous about something important. "Of course. Should I be concerned?" "I hope not," he replied, then paused. "Actually, I hope you'll be very pleased." That evening, Min-jun took Naledi to the same restaurant where they had shared their first non-business dinner 6 months earlier. As they sat at the same table looking out over the Chicago River, Naledi marveled at how much had changed while somehow feeling like everything had fallen perfectly into place. "Do you remember what you said to me the night of the gala?" Min-jun asked as they finished their main course. "I said many things that night. You'll have to be more specific. You said you had never been afraid of complicated situations." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately." Naledi felt her heart begin to race as Min-jun reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. "Naledi Morrison," he said, opening the box to reveal a stunning sapphire surrounded by diamonds that caught the candlelight perfectly. "You've transformed my life in ways I never expected. You've made me a better businessman, a better man, and shown me that love and professional success can coexist beautifully." Tears began forming in Naledi's eyes as he continued. "I know our relationship started in the most unconventional way, and I know some people will always question the dynamics that brought us together. But I also know that what we have is real and worth fighting for." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "Will you marry me?" Naledi looked at the ring, then at the man who had evolved from her demanding boss into her closest friend and deepest love. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, absolutely yes." As Min-jun slipped the ring onto her finger, Naledi realized that sometimes the most unexpected invitations lead to the most extraordinary destinations. What had begun as a simple request to attend a charity gala had become a love story that neither of them could have imagined. 2 years later, the Kong Morrison Foundation's second annual gala was held at the same hotel where Min-jun and Naledi had first appeared together as a couple. This time, Naledi stood at the podium as the foundation's co-director, addressing a room full of supporters who had contributed to their expanded mission of improving healthcare and education throughout the Midwest. "When my husband first invited me to a charity gala 3 years ago," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom, "I never could have imagined that evening would lead to this moment. Tonight, we celebrate not just the success of our programs, but the power of partnerships that bring together passion, resources, and commitment to create lasting change." In the audience, Min-jun watched his wife with profound admiration. Naledi had left Quantum Dynamics the previous year to co-found their private foundation with him, combining her passion for social impact with his business acumen and resources. Their marriage had proven the skeptics wrong while inspiring others to look beyond conventional boundaries when building both professional and personal partnerships. Garrett Russo approached Min-jun during the cocktail reception, his expression notably different from their first meeting with Naledi years earlier. "I owe you both an apology," he said sincerely. "I was wrong about Naledi, and I was wrong about what would make you happy. You two have built something remarkable together." "Thank you, Garrett. That means more than you know." As the evening concluded and the last guests departed, Min-jun and Naledi found themselves alone in the ballroom where their story had really begun. She was wearing emerald green this time, and her wedding rings caught the light as she reached up to straighten his bow tie. "Ready to go home, Mr. Kong?" she asked with the same professional tone she had used years earlier, though now it carried playful affection rather than formal distance. "With you? Always," he replied, taking her hand as they walked toward their waiting car. Outside, Chicago's skyline glittered with the same lights that had witnessed the beginning of their unconventional love story. Neither could have predicted that a lonely billionaire's impulsive invitation to his dedicated assistant would lead to a partnership that transformed not only their own lives, but the lives of countless others through their shared commitment to making the world a better place. Sometimes the most meaningful journeys begin with the simplest question, "Would you like to accompany me?" And sometimes, when the right person says yes, that single evening can change everything. If you enjoyed this story of unexpected love and transformed lives, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our upcoming stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever taken a chance that changed your life?